Hey guys, welcome into the Stinkin Truth podcast. Alongside Mike Evans, I am Mark Schlereth. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Make sure you download, subscribe, do all those things that you do. Mike, how you doing, buddy?
I am doing great, Mark. We got some breathless news involving the Dallas Cowboys. Micah Parsons did show up for the start of their offseason conditioning program. Does that mean all is good when it comes to the Cowboys and Micah Parsons?
So you're saying there's a contract on the horizon. You can smell it, right?
It's in the air.
Yeah. I've got inside information that's not why he's at OTAs, Mike. Has nothing to do with how close the contract is or isn't. Has nothing to do with being there to work out. He could work out anywhere, Mike. This has to do with content. He is lacking guests on his own podcast, and he's like, I need some guests on my podcast, so I better walk into the locker room and see who I can get to come on, because that's what's most important. Now, listen, man, in a day and age where there's holdouts and now there's hold-ins and there's all that stuff, at least I'm glad that he's there with his teammates. And part of it, honestly, is boredom. Part of it is at this point of the offseason, you're ready to go back and work out. You're ready to go into the facility, mix it up with the guys and all that stuff. So, hey, it's a good sign. I'm sure things are really good in Dallas. He knows he's about to be the highest paid defensive player in football. He knows where the contract parameters are. He saw what Myles Garrett got. He knows where he's in line or what he's in line for. And so to me, it's like, hey, no big deal. It's going to get done. I'm sure his agent and the Cowboys and Jerry Jones are in conversations. It will get done. You know, Jerry may just string it out to sign him right before training camp, because Jerry Jones loves to kind of string things out. So I'm assuming it'll get done, but I think it's a good sign that Micah Parsons is there.
Okay, that combined with Dak Prescott looking like he's put a lot of work into his body in the offseason, this time that he's been away since recovering from his injury. The Cowboys outlook as you sit here right now, how would you define it for next season?
Well, I would look at them and say, you know, they're a third place team in that division. Maybe fighting with the Giants, depending on what happens with the Giants, the quarterback situation, how they play. Like, clearly the class of that, of the NFC East is the Eagles. That's the class. Sure. Then Washington, they've made some offseason moves as well, but Washington's right there. They played them in the NFC Championship game. So by far, those two are the best. Dak Prescott, I think, is an outstanding quarterback. I don't think there's any question. The fact that you have had holes to fill and you have consistently decided not to fill those holes in free agency, and I don't think free agency is the end-all be-all, Mike. I think you can get yourself in a lot of trouble in free agency. But the bottom line is, when you have a gaping hole within your franchise, the best place to fill it, to make sure that you go forward and at least it doesn't cost you, is in free agency. You can't rely on the draft to fill holes and have guys ready to play right away. Yeah, maybe they'll be ready to play eventually. Maybe it's after the first season, second, whatever it is. But like, the Cowboys and Jerry Jones just refuse to get involved in free agency. They refuse to spend any significant money in free agency and to really patchwork big holes in free agency. For whatever reason, whatever their decisions are, they choose not to do that. So you look at the Dallas Cowboys, with or without Micah, with or without a healthy Dak, I still think they're third best in their own division right now.
Okay, well, there's nothing necessarily wrong with being third. Green Bay was third in their division, went to the playoffs. Denver Broncos were third in their division, went to the playoffs. So let me kind of press you a little bit more. When you say the Dallas Cowboys are a third-place team, are they a third-place team that you think can be a wild card team, or are they a third-place team that's battling with the Giants for third or fourth place, last place, with the idea that both teams are going to be 5-12, 6-11.
Right. Yeah, I think they're a third place team that has a chance to fight for a playoff spot,
Okay.
a chance to fight for a wild card spot. So, yeah, it's not all doom and gloom, but they're the Dallas Cowboys. And at some point, just being the Dallas Cowboys, maybe that's always going to be enough. They're always going to be a team, whether they're winning a lot or whether they're losing a lot, we're going to talk about because they're the Dallas freaking Cowboys. But at some point in Jerry Jones's ownership, in this 30 years where they haven't been to a Super Bowl. Now, they've been to the playoffs and they've done a lot of things, but they haven't really had success in the playoffs. At some point, don't you have to be legitimate Super Bowl contenders? Don't you have to legitimately have a chance to at least get there and see where the chips fall? Like the Cowboys, like it's a running joke, and I lean into it all the time that, hey man, you know what, they will during the regular season they're going to be competitive, but when it comes to playoffs, they're going to take a dump in their helmet like they do every year because that's who the Cowboys are. At some point during Jerry Jones's ownership run, they've got to be able to compete for a championship.
And not to go all Cowboys here, I don't want this podcast to come across like, I don't know, your TV show where there's just a over infatuation. Oh, he's so funny.
Guilty.
Guilty. Here we go. Yeah. Is what you're saying is that as long as Jerry Jones insists on being the general manager, they'll never compete for a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I just don't think that I don't think that the Cowboys under Jerry Jones's leadership will ever be like they'll ever compete for that. I just think there are too many other things, from a structural standpoint, organizational structure. You're never going to empower your coach. Come on, you just fired McCarthy. You hired Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schotty's a great dude. I love Schotty. But do you really think, honestly, let's just be honest, okay? Let's get in the cone of silence, the truth tree, whatever you want to be in, right? The circle of trust. The
cone of silence.
Yeah, the cone of silence from and that was from oh gosh, what was that space show? Or not space show, but that spy show.
It was Get Smart.
Get Smart, yeah.
Yeah.
Get Smart.
I know.
They did a remake, so it's not that old.
While it shows up, yeah, Matty over here. Matt's a 20-something dude. He knew about it, so
yeah. So anyhow,
yeah, we're good.
But yeah, like
ourselves.
If we're being just really honest, come on, right? Like nobody believes that Shoddy has like institutional control. Nobody believes that Shoddy can just go, hey, CeeDee Lamb, you're not working hard enough. You're benched. Damn it, you're benched. I'm like, no. Jerry go, no, he's not. He's not benched. Like, I just so like the structure of the organization has since Jerry fired Jimmy Johnson because he wasn't getting enough credit. The structure of the organization has just been off kilter. And if you don't empower your coach, players are going to take advantage of that. Players are never really going to trust that guy is in charge. And therefore, your organization is never going to have the success that is required or the success that you could have if you actually had a head coach that was in charge. And you never will as long as Jerry owns the team.
You got to wonder about the structure of the Miami Dolphins. This Jalen Ramsey story. So prior to last season, they signed him to a contract extension that doesn't kick in until 2026.
Right.
But now they're coming out and saying that they're willing to shop trade offers for Jalen Ramsey, who has not been to a Pro Bowl. He's coming off a season in which he did not go to the Pro Bowl for the first time since his rookie season. He's a former 3-time All-Pro, but he hasn't won one of those distinctions since 2021. So apparently, even with the big contract that still hasn't kicked in, the Dolphins are looking to trade him.
Yeah. Really interesting because, I did a Miami game late last season. Anthony Weaver is their defensive coordinator. Raved about Jalen Ramsey. And the thing about Jalen is, like, that dude is just an outstanding football player. And so he's a very versatile guy. You think of Jalen Ramsey. What do you think of? Let me ask you. I think you're a big time football fan. You pay a lot of attention to everything across the board. When I say Jalen Ramsey, how would you define Jalen Ramsey? Because I think you're the voice of America, of football fans. I mean, you have a lot of knowledge, but you're the voice. So what would you define Jalen Ramsey as?
Well, I mean, he's always struck me as just a really good all-around corner, somebody who's willing to, stick his neck in there in the run game and, is just an outstanding all-around corner.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I think the majority of Americans would say, oh, he's a shutdown corner. Like the people that follow the game,
right?
Like surfacely, you know more than most about a guy like Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey for Weaver last year was all over the place. Anthony had him playing nickel corner in the slot. He had him playing dime corner when you're coming in at dime, you're playing linebacker inside. He had him rushing the passer. Look at his sack numbers, man. He had 4 or 5 sacks last year. So he had him rushing the passer. He had him outside as a shutdown corner, in the middle of the football field as a slot corner, in the dime package as linebacker. This guy played all over the football field last year. The dude is a football playing Jesse. He is a great player. So obviously something went down with Jalen Ramsey. Like he wants out, and Miami was like, okay, we're just going to let you out because we've got other issues or other fish to fry. But you think about Jalen Ramsey hitting the open market in a trade, like the potential of a trade. If you're Detroit, you don't get on that, what are you doing? Seriously, if you're Washington and you want to level out the level of talent between you and Philadelphia, you want to even it up a little bit, how are you not in that sweepstakes? What about San Francisco? Would you like to get in that? Like Jalen Ramsey is that good a player to me. They can play all those multiple positions, but he still can thrive as a shutdown corner. One of the reasons he wanted to do it, one of the reasons he wanted not just to be a shutdown corner, because he wants the action, man, because he's a football player. I want to be involved. I want to be the guy. And he's still, to me, an elite level player.
Okay, then what does that tell us about the Dolphins then? Do they feel that they're a team now that is not close to being able to compete, and therefore, rather than building around a guy like Jalen Ramsey, they now have to use him as a chip to try to close the gap that they perceive to exist between them and, the Bills and the other top teams in the AFC?
Yeah, I think you have to look at yourself when it comes to regarding the Bills and how are we going to compete with the Buffalo Bills? The other thing that I think you have to look at with Miami, and I get it, it's a high flying offense with guys like Tariq over the years and Waddle over the years and their ability to throw the ball into windows and spaces and let guys catch it and run and all that stuff. And ultimately they go to play Buffalo, and Buffalo just thunder punches them in the teeth, right? They're just like, no, you ain't up to our standard yet, right? You don't have the kind of physicality that we play with. You don't have the dogs that we have. And, as fun as it is to sit there and say, wow, they're so dynamic and so athletic and so this and so that, and all those things are really cool. But when push comes to shove, if you're going to take a step as a playoff contending team or a playoff winning team, dude, you better understand how to control lines of scrimmage. You better understand how to play hard-nosed football. And here's my issue with Miami, and this goes back to my playing days. And I used to say this as a player: you will never, ever win in Miami because of several reasons. One, the heat. The heat is over the course of a regular season, the heat wears you out. I think by the time you get to the playoffs, man, you've lost 15. You can't keep your weight on. It's always it's miserable. It is miserable playing in Miami from a heat standpoint. The other thing is too many, when the going gets tough and it's the end of the season and it's raining and it's snowing and it's miserable and the coaches are up your ass and they're calling you a piece of shit and, then you got to go mope home and you're like, and you got to see your family, and you're like, oh, man, I just got, roughed over at practice today and the coach is threatening to bench me and all this stuff. And life is just miserable. There's something about that. There's something organically about that that's just football. And you play in Miami and the coach calls you a piece of shit and you walk out and you go, man, it's beautiful. Let's get drinks at the beach. Let's go to Jones Stoke Crab. Let's get some crab. It just is. There's just something about it that I think doesn't resonate with toughness. And I'm not saying the guys aren't tough. I'm just saying playoff football wise, the guys aren't. It just doesn't, like, there's something missing there. And so I think you've got to be built a different way. I think it can't be all highfalutin, throwing the ball over everybody's head, and we're going to win on athleticism, because that's not how the playoffs are structured. That's not how you win come playoff time. So maybe they're making this transformation to being a little bit more of a grimy kind of like the Miami team of yesteryear with Don Shula, where it was Larry Zonka and all. Like, everybody, like, there's a bunch of kids watching. I don't know how many kids are watching this, but like Larry who? But you know what I'm saying.
Yes, I know what you're saying. Get smart. Okay. 17 players have been invited and accepted and are going to be part of the first round of the NFL draft coming up next Thursday. 17 players will be in attendance in Green Bay. One of those who are not going to be there is Shedeur Sanders, which his teammate from CU, Travis Hunter, will be at the NFL draft, but Shedeur Sanders will not be. What do you read into that? The fact that a guy who's all about marketing and putting himself out there and being visible is not going to be at the NFL draft.
I don't put much into it because I'm sure he will be somewhere with a whole boatload of cameras sitting in the same place that he is with his father and with his family and with everybody else. And he will have plenty of shine and plenty of opportunity when it comes to, marketing. So, like, one thing I know about the Sanders family is they know how to sell.
You don't think that this is an acknowledgement? We've heard the talk that, Shedeur could go. I mean, he could go as high as 3 to the Giants, but there's also been plenty of scenarios that show him dropping in the draft, maybe even to late in the first round. And we've seen it before, whether it's Aaron Rodgers. We saw it recently a couple of years ago with Will Levis. Man, it's embarrassing. It's awkward. It's agonizing to be in that green room and the picks keep going off the board and they're not calling you, and the camera, it just keeps showing you. I wonder if part of this is Shedeur saying, I don't want to risk that.
Okay, so let me pose a question. We'll play a little game here. What's more likely, that he's afraid of falling and having, quote unquote, bad publicity as he's sitting in that draft room and he just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping, and people are saying, oh, he's going to go 9 for sure to New Orleans, and New Orleans doesn't take him. And now it's like, well, the next place, maybe he goes 21 to Pittsburgh. Is that a more likely scenario, or is it a more likely scenario that the Sanders family, with Deion's other son, Bucky, who is like a YouTube phenom, and they make more money than you and I combined plus 10 on YouTube channel? Do you think it's more likely that they maybe have a side deal cut with a network or a streaming service to put the whole thing as a documentary, the journey toward being a first rounder, and it's already sold, and therefore they're going to control the narrative from their own home with their own cameras, creating their own YouTube show? Like, I think that's far more likely when it comes to the Deion Sanders that I know and, and all that goes on than it is, oh, no, we're worried we might fall 4 or 5 places in the draft. I think it has to do with exactly what you said, marketing, with their ability to create revenue, their ability to create money and generate hype. I think that's what it's all about. I don't think it's fear of falling, out of the first round or falling way down into the 20s.
Yeah, but Deion's also said that Travis Hunter is like an adopted son to him. But Travis Hunter's going to be at the draft. You know, why not build this docuseries around both of his sons?
Yeah, that would be like, okay, maybe this is so special for Travis Hunter. He wants to be there. He's going to go first or second or third overall. I mean, there's no question that he is going to go in the top 3 picks. So maybe this is something that's been a lifelong dream. He's watched it happen. He wants this opportunity. And ultimately, like, that's what the decision he made. And I just know Deion's got the best interest of the kids, Hunter and all those guys involved. But I also know that they are marketing. Honestly, they're marketing geniuses. Like, those guys know how to generate revenue. Bucky does a phenomenal job with all the stuff he posts on YouTube and everything else. They have so many. I mean, they have so many deals. It's ridiculous. I'm sure they're making, a truckload of money off of this draft.
Well, and that is easy to do. And I can see your side of things, and it's easy to control if he does get drafted high. If he does end up slipping, well, again, you kind of control the message that way and save Shedeur maybe from some awkwardness and embarrassment. A quick thought on Derek Carr. Tough news for Derek Carr. I know you like him a lot. You're a fan of Derek Carr. What's your reaction to the news that likely going to miss the season?
Yeah, like, I'm just wondering, how did we not know until April that this shoulder was that bad? Like, did we not know this in December? Like, did we not know this early? Like, did we just think it was going to heal? And then all of a sudden, we're thinking it's going to heal. We're thinking it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And then all of a sudden it's not fine. Right. Like, it's really interesting. Yeah. You know what? I have been a fan of Derek Carr for quite some time. I think he's a really good player. Do I think he's an elite level quarterback? Right. No. But do I think he's a really good player? Yeah. I know he's super tough. Man, I know he'll take it in the chops and won't even hesitate. And I know he's played hurt a lot throughout his career. Disappointing for the Saints, disappointing for Derek Carr. And it also is, one guy's misfortune is another guy's opportunity. It opens up a quarterbacking spot for New Orleans, which it does seem now with the Giants they're working Shedeur Sanders out on Thursday. So they've got a private individual workout with Shedeur. But it certainly seems like that's more of a smokescreen. They did that with J.J. McCarthy last year, too, as you remember. And they had the opportunity to draft him. And they chose Neighbors instead of drafting the quarterback because they had made a deal with, with Daniel Jones. And then they cut him after 8 weeks. So they certainly know what they're doing. That's for sure. But I think that's more of a smokescreen. Like, I think they're going Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, whoever happens to be available after Cleveland drafts. So I think that's the direction they're going to go, doing their due diligence, whatever, however you want to spin it. But it certainly feels like Shedeur Sanders is going to be a New Orleans Saint. That's what it feels like to me. And I think that's a great place. New coaching staff there with Kellen Moore off of his success with the Super Bowl championship in Philadelphia. Doug Nussmeier, former Idaho Vandal great, the quarterback / offensive coordinator coach. How are you going to go wrong? You cannot go wrong when you have Idaho guys on your staff and on your roster. You're just going to get wins. That's how it works. Idaho guys win. That's all it is.
That's all they do. That's all they do. Well, this podcast wins every single time we do it. So another good one in the books, and we'll get ready as we inch ever closer to a big draft day, big draft week coming up.
I do want to mention really quick before we go, and we'll be back later on in the week as well, but I'm working on this project with a site called Top Fans. It's like OnlyFans, only you don't have to show your Yoo-hoo. And it's all going to be, it's a subscription-based deal, but it's all going to be football breakdowns. I've solicited the help of a four-time Super Bowl championship coach to do some breakdowns with me on this. It's going to be kind of cool for less than a cup of coffee a month. We're going to do a bunch of stuff on here from a content standpoint that I think is going to be pretty cool. So in the works right now, doing a lot of draft breakdown stuff. So I'll continue to do that. Maybe later on in the week, we'll talk a little draft stuff. As we move forward into next week before the draft on Thursday, we'll do a bunch of draft breakdown stuff. Guys I love, guys I'm not sure about, guys that I hate with all my guts.
Yeah.
No, I don't hate anybody. But you know what I'm saying. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Top Fans. We'll talk about that down the road as well. So for Mike, I am Mark, man. We thank you so much for making us a part of your day. For everybody involved in the Stinkin Truth podcast, we appreciate you, and we'll be back with you later on this week.